Welcome to everybody on the webinar. Thank you for attending. My name's Sue Dopson. I'm Professor at the Business School and currently serve as Interim Dean. And just before we talk about the Interim Leadership Team, I want to just welcome everybody. Alumni that registered today reside in over 100 cities at this fantastic representation of our diverse community. And it won't just be me speaking here. We've also got Viola, Tom Childs, Pauline Brandt, Joy Bussell, Maria Dooley, and of course Johnathan Reynolds, who's pictured here with me as part of the interim team. So we're really looking forward to the conversation and updating you, and personal thanks to people who recognise me from a long time ago. So if you've got any questions, please use the Q&A box and we'll address as many as possible during the Q&A session at the end of the session. So let's start with this picture of the interim team. You will know that Peter Stefano, our Dean, left us to start his sabbatical in June, and we're in the process, a very exciting process, of appointing a new Dean. And the university have asked myself, Johnathan Reynolds, Sarah Beck, who's our COO, and Richard Barker, who many of you may know as Professor of Accounting and Faculty Dean, to essentially run the business school together during this interim period. And it's a real team effort. And Johnathan works with Kathy Harvey, who many of you will know, in a great partnership looking after student and course issues. So it's exciting to be in this position, but we are waiting to announce the new Dean, and maybe there'll be questions about that. But let's just think a little bit about looking back and looking forward. But looking back, next slide, please. We are taking on these roles, but I am serving as interim dean. So very much more university facing and outward facing, whereas Johnathan is very much looking after the graduate programs, etc. And many of you may recognise us. We have been here an awfully long time. You can see a very young-looking Johnathan, an extremely young-looking me, because we have been knocking about in the business school for about well over 30 years. We both started when we were very young, at least 15. So, but you can just prove that we've been around a long time, and I suspect some of you on this call may indeed recognise us looking like that. So next slide then, please. But we're looking forward now, and it is 25 years that we celebrate of the business school, Saïd Business School. And the Content Hub celebrating the 25th anniversary will be published under the banner Business the Next 25 Years, and will be hosted on Oxford Answers. The content is structured under 6 pillars: sustainability, leadership, responsible business, finance and governance, entrepreneurship, and digital transformation. And the future of business education, which obviously is very dear to our hearts, and of course, EDI content, which again is a really important stream of work in this school, as it is in many others, will be threaded through those content pillars. And publication of the material will be phased commencing at the end of the month and supported by a social media campaign. And a hybrid conference to expand the content on the hub is penciled in for summer 2022. And I do hope you on this call and all alumni will be invited, and you'll be able to take part and celebrate, what has been an extraordinary 25 years of growth and development, of which I'm incredibly proud, as I'm sure you will be. But let me say a little bit about the update, and I want to start by thinking about new faculty. Next slide, please, Darius. And we've just appointed 3 new faculty, and I'm very keen that I share these hires with you. Agni Orphan Udaku, and I probably pronounced that terribly badly, but she started with us as an Associate Professor of Operations Management. She's also a Fellow at Exeter College. Agni received her PhD in Operations Research from MIT, and she holds a visiting scholar position at Harvard Kennedy School, as well as at the Business School. Her research interests lie at the intersection of machine learning and optimization, with applications to the industries of healthcare insurance. So a fantastic new hire, and I very much hope that you'll reach out and engage with her. We also welcome, next slide please, Paolo Savage, who's an Associate Professor of Engineering, and again, a Fellow at Worcester College. He may well be known to many of you because he's done some work in our Skull Centre. And he takes this really interesting joint post with the engineering department. And we're really keen on these collaborations between the business school and other departments, and this is one of them. His research covers the mechanics of entrepreneurship, focuses on sustainability challenges like poverty, climate change, etc., and a really great hire as well. And then finally, delighted to announce Daniel Armanos. And Daniel is our BT Professor of Management and Fellow of St Anne's. So very much following Bent Flyberg's work role. So we're delighted to welcome him. He holds a PhD in Management Science and Engineering from Stanford University. But actually, he's no stranger to us. He's one of our alumni. He graduated from the MPhil the MSc in Management Studies, and many of you on this call may well have taken part in that degree and may well know Daniel. So it's lovely that he's coming back. And his research and teaching integrates civil engineering and organizational sociology to better understand how organizations coordinate to build and to subsequently use infrastructure. He'll join remotely in January 2022, but will relocate with his family in Trinity 2022. So 3 fantastic hires, really pleased with that. And I hope you'll engage with them and indeed follow their work. So a huge welcome to our new faculty. Let me pause and think a little bit about what the interim team has been doing. So firstly, I want to say how well supported I feel in the role as interim dean, and I think it's fair to say that the 4 of us have been very much a team, and I want to pay tribute to the work and help of that team. But of course, we're not alone. The senior leadership group and of course the senior management team that Sarah Beck leads have been fantastically supportive and helpful. And I think it's fair to say that everybody feels they've got at least 2 or 3 jobs at the moment as we come out of what has been a challenging period, as well you all know. But I did want to say something about where we're putting our energy as an interim team. So next slide. And essentially, we're being very careful about starting too much that's new because there's enough going on anyway. But where we are putting our energies, and Jonathan's going to say much more about number 1, we're thinking very carefully about the shape and size of our programs and making sure that we're delivering, a fantastic educational experience in very challenging times. We're working mainly hybrid at the moment, and I think that's been an incredible transition, and we've learned a lot from that. So learning from how we pivoted in our teaching during this period of challenge has been really important. So we've done it, but we're also learning from it. Faculty research and impact. I hope the news that I've just shared with you about our 3 new colleagues signal that we continue to recruit well, and we continue to recruit with research excellence and impact involved. And that's been important, and there are a number of posts outstanding, but we continue to really raise the bar in terms of our research and impact. The Global Leadership Centre, I'll say a bit more about that in a moment. Financial sustainability, that's crucial. It's been a challenging period, but thank you to the good work of our wonderful professional colleagues and faculty. We are in a relatively sound position given everything we've gone through this year. Values and culture, we've been doing work on that for an awful long time, but it is important that we continue that work and not let it slip. We are a collegiate institution. We want a culture of fairness. Our values are about that. We talk about that, and we need to live that internally. Equality, diversity, and sustainability. Lots of work in this space, and we'll hear a little bit more about that indeed as we go forward. Governance, we're thinking about how to get smarter about making decisions and being more timely in our decisions, and that's been an important reflection. And thinking about how to work with the university in an even more agile and effective way. And of course, external relations and fundraising. Tom will say a little bit more about that, but really working with him very closely on thinking about, how do we leverage the relationships that we've got and fundraising. So those are some of our strategic priorities. They're meaty, they're hard work, but I think they're right as we begin to build and understand how our organisation has changed as a result of the pandemic and what we need to do differently and what we need to learn from. So the next slide I just want to major on before I hand over to Johnathan to talk about, of course, is this Global Leadership Centre. And we picked out this slide. You can see this was, I think, Peter's last day as Dean. And we went into the into the Global Leadership Centre with our hard hats are not on. That's probably not what we should have done, but we did have hard hats on at some point. And as a faculty, and began to look at this extraordinary Victorian power station, which is going to be the new Global Leadership Centre for our executive education work. And we passed several milestones this year, including final approval from the university, a significant gift from Bill Ackerman and the Pershing Square Foundation, building on donations also from our alumni, including diploma alumni John Butler, Steve Yamshin, and EMBA, Hashmi Patel, and of course, the generous support of the Saïd Foundation allowed us to get on with this project. And now the work begins in earnest, and we'll mark this with a groundbreaking ceremony on the 22nd of October. So this building is scheduled for completion on 2024, and it will be housed in a green restoration of the city's first power station. And in line with the commitment to improve the sustainability of its operations, the school's working very closely with the project team to look at technology that really improves the building's energy usage, etc. And why are we doing this? Oxford, as you well know, has always been about asking significant questions. And our teaching and research are driven by curiosity. What really drives behaviour and systems? Why do some phenomena and patterns get repeated again and again? What can we learn from those patterns? How can we understand from what we see and what we notice to influence the future? And our approach to leadership, as many of you will well know, starts with the question, what's the work that needs to be done? And then it's about encouraging leaders to notice what's going on in their organizations and nudging change rather than assuming you can do wholesale change. And what these principles all have in common, I hope, is humility. They're about listening and learning from others, about being reflective, about understanding the task in hand and not getting diverted by politics or other noise. And that's what this Global Leadership Centre is designed to facilitate. Those kinds of conversations, deep conversations, important conversations about what responsible leadership is. So that really is all I want to say about the leadership team. And thank you personally for some of the messages of support that I've received from alumni. And it's great to see a number of you, well, not see you literally, but hear from you. And I know that you're here. So let me pass on, if I may, to Johnathan.
Thank you, Sue, and greetings, everyone, from an unseasonably warm and sunny Oxford. So I look out of my office window, and we're all back in our offices now. The sky actually does look like my background. And we've been saying over the last couple of weeks that the good weather is a new team member for us in terms of our program support. I wanted to cover a few themes around developments in terms of our programs in about 5 or 6 minutes. One of the things to say, first of all, is after a challenging 18 months or so, where we've had many hybrid cohorts, periods where we've been locked down and purely teaching online, which has been a remarkable learning experience, as Sue suggested. We were finally able, around about 2 weeks ago, to welcome, I calculated, over 800 students, majority in person, in fact, by far the majority in person, into the buildings for the start of their programs. You'll see the 2021 mix on the chart in front of you there, but 355 MBAs, I think the last count, something like 330 of those were in person with us. And of course, we also welcomed our undergraduates, our new undergraduates. It was wonderful to see students who had, in many cases, not been able to do the usual exams and so on, were able to join us in Oxford, again, in person. And also to celebrate that program, which, again, I think about the 10th year, has been ranked top in terms of UK business undergraduate programs. But I wanted to pick on a few themes that are relevant to developments in the program's area. And someone's just popped up a note about 3 cohorts of MMPM. That's the intake, by the way. That's 50 on the intake, not the necessarily the resident cohort, including the second year. Next slide, please. The first of these is to celebrate the launch of a new diploma program from this year, a diploma in AI for business, which is being directed by our L'Oreal Professor of Marketing, Andrew Stephen, and colleague Alex Connick. And we're just about to embark on the final and 4th module of this first iteration of this program. It's Oxford's first postgraduate degree that's focused on AI. Cohort 1 started deep in lockdown in February 2021, but we're back in person for the final module, we hope, next month. And we started cohort 2 just yesterday, and that will last through until June 22. It's an enormously international cohort from dozens of countries, lots of industries and sectors, particularly government, investment banking, consumer goods sectors, technology, military and security, and a really fascinating cross-section of individuals who are thinking quite carefully and strategically about the role of AI in all sectors and geographies. And as the quote from Andrew there says, what does AI really mean? How do business leaders make effective and appropriate use of it and get beyond the hype? That's something that they've been exploring on that particular program. And it's, I think, a great example of the way in which we're trying to use our diploma portfolio to develop new areas and themes of relevance to the global challenges that we face. Next slide, please. But I didn't want to forget the undergraduate program, because although in this and in previous town halls, we've talked about the importance of diverse cohorts and diversity in terms of the Oxford Saïd's program mix, I wanted to focus particularly on what's happened in relation to our undergraduate program, the economics management program. If we look back, let's say 10 to 15 years, then the headline there from a UK newspaper, from The Guardian, government accused of total failure to widen elite university access. And there was significant criticism of Oxford and Cambridge and other so-called Russell Group universities at the undergraduate level for having very homogeneous admissions profiles at that level. And we were aware, certainly, for our economics management program, we had a challenge to diversify that program. And indeed, the university has set a target to boost the proportion of its undergraduate intake coming from what it calls underrepresented backgrounds in the UK from 15% to 25% by 2023. And it's well on the way to achieving that. I mean, the message from the Central University and from the school is that we want potential from wherever it's going to be found. In order to be able to thrive, we need the best people from all backgrounds. And that strengthens the university's intellectual vitality. I think that's a critical message. So how have we done in relation to the economics management program? Next slide. And that's the outcomes that we have achieved over a 4-year period in terms of proportion coming from state schools as against public schools or private schools, as we call them elsewhere, risen from 40% to 64% in terms of our program, tracking the university overall figure. Proportion identifying as Black and minority ethnic has risen overall from 15 to 23%, within E&M, which is already quite diverse in relation to that demographic, moving from 32 to 35%. Socioeconomic disadvantaged representation, again, up to 18% over that period. And the proportion from areas of low progression to higher education, in other words, households and families that would not normally have considered a university and certainly not Oxford for their children, increasing to 18% in the case of economics and management, higher than the university movement in that direction over the 4 years. The only area where we still have some work to do is in relation to disability. And that's achievement has been absolutely the result of a substantial amount of outreach activity. And you'll see the unique logo on the right of this slide. Unique is a university-wide program which seeks to prepare students from underrepresented backgrounds for entry into Oxford. It's a several month-long process, but with a 1 week residential or online residential this year module, which exposes them to what tutorials are like at the undergraduate level, sample lectures, group exercises, and so on, and seeks to build familiarity and comfort levels with applying successfully for an Oxford degree. As you'll see on the slide there, the same Guardian newspaper reporting the drive for more student diversity paying off as Oxford University. Next slide, please. On the executive education side, we've also been pursuing innovative strategies, and many of you will have already heard about the growth in our online program portfolio on the non-accredited side. Well, since March 2020 and the first UK lockdown, we've introduced 13 further programs to make 23 in total. We've been working with third parties to help us achieve that. We've also built up a strong internal team to help us with that over the last few months. And there are some amazing numbers, having seen 25,000 participants from over 170 countries on those 23 programs since we first began that online activity. And now there's also a digital finance series that you can kind of pursue. And as alumni, we're offering a discount for those of you that would like to pursue some of those sorts of programs. Next slide, please. Finally, I just wanted to mention the COVID-19 response. As Sue has alluded to, this has been an extraordinarily challenging year for us all, for universities and business schools everywhere, particularly those schools like Oxford Saïd, so reliant on international diversity and ability to attract such an internationally complex set of cohorts. And in the last couple of years, we know that many of our student cohorts have not had the kind of Oxford experience that we would or they would like to have had because of the lockdowns, because of the needs to move online. And in the case of some countries, not even being able to leave their own country to get to Oxford to receive the education that they would have liked. So we've put in place a number of initiatives at the student level, working closely with the student cohorts affected. And I hope some of them are on the line, either immediately graduated students who've experienced some of this. But some of the activities we've been involved with, Peter has talked about, I know, previously, but it's worth summarising some of these achievements. The Oxford Saïd Service Corps, which is a student-led initiative to replace cancelled internships and consultancy projects, focusing on businesses and non-profits that were themselves affected by the pandemic. Enormously successful, I think. The LIBOR project, created by the Entrepreneurship Centre, assigning 130 students with alumni volunteers to work with UK startups, scale-ups, and SMEs. The Creative Destruction Lab recovery program, which again was supporting a mentoring program. And then working with the cohorts particularly affected, whether that was MBA, executive MBA, diploma programs, on putting together a package of benefits that would go some way to offset the different kind of experience that those students have had. And we're working closely with those cohorts affected through their student reps and the program teams to deliver those additional benefits over the next few years. But then the community has also responded to COVID in I think, an extraordinary, tremendous way. The Leadership in Extraordinary Times podcast series and webinar series launched a few weeks after lockdown started in the UK and has broadcast something like 28 interviews and panel discussions and a further 12 in the last term, providing advice for leaders in these extraordinary times. Oxford Answers has succeeded that with a series of analytical and, I think, thought-provoking insights into the way in which organisations are going to have to change and how leadership is going to have to change in what's been called the next normal. But the initiative of which I'm most proud, finally, I think, is something which we did very much homegrown, and it's thanks to our COO, Sarah Beck, for this, which is that we were able to offer homeless sleepers in Oxford during lockdown periods accommodation in Egrove Park during that lockdown, working with Oxford City Council, so we could protect the broader community as a result of the impact of the pandemic. And as I say, I think that's one of the proudest moments I've had when we were able to do that to help out our local community. So that's my kind of feedback on program themes. I'm happy to take some questions on there. And we're seeing some questions in the Q&A. So do please post in that Q&A section, and we'll do our best to answer those questions when we get to the end of this session. But I'll pass back to Sue.
Thank you, Jonathan. And I hope that was helpful, just giving you a flavour of how we've been spending our our time collectively at the school and the leadership team in particular. So let me now hand over to Tom Childs, who's recently been made Interim Associate Director of Fundraising, to talk about the work of the development team in continuing to support the school through these very challenging times. And of course, Viola, who you all know, I'm sure, who's the Associate Director of Alumni Relationship, to give you an update on the work of the Alumni Advisory Council. So Tom.
Hi everybody, I'm Tom Childs. I've been at the school for 7 years. I'm predominantly head of corporate partnerships, but I'm very pleased to be taking on this interim role as the new Associate Director for Fundraising. Some of you already know me, but many of you I don't know yet, so I'm really looking forward to getting to know you and individually and as a community. We're very grateful to the members of our alumni community who give back. And this ranges from transformational gifts that fund scholarship programs or research conducted by our faculty, drive some of our entrepreneurship programs. And as Sue has mentioned earlier, we're very grateful to those who have been supporting the Global Leadership Centre as we develop that project. But today, I'm pleased to be telling you that this year we ran the third and so far the most successful Giving Day. This took place in June. So for those of you who like data, as my slide shows, I'll run through the numbers. So first of all, the headline is that we raised £163,000 in 36 hours. We think that the reason we were so successful is that we ran a match giving campaign. So we secured £84,000 of support in advance of the campaign, and my thanks go out to Gus Carey, Marcus Golser, William de Laszlo, Abdullah Aldabakai, Wanakaset, and the Alumni Associate Committee for putting up those funds. Then when we went live on the day, 456 of you matched that funding, bringing us to that total of 163,000. You originated from 52 countries, showing just how global the campaign was. And of that number, 233 of you donated to the school for the first time. So a huge thank you to those of you who did that. Importantly, we exceeded our target. Now, participation was one of our targets. I think we were aiming for about 400, so 456 was a healthy outcome. And that participation ranges across the whole school community. So that means we also had support from faculty, current students, staff, and alumni from all of our programs, including Exec Ed. The average gift was £143. And because we offered to recognise all supporters who've given over £100, that means that 290 of you will be added to the first Dean's Cloister in recognition of your support. All the funds raised will be directed to core student support needs, including scholarships and bursaries. So next slide, please. So who benefited from Giving Day this year? On this diagram, you'll see 10 individuals who have received an Alumni Annual Fund Scholarship for 2021-22. You can see here that they come from all 5 continents of the world. So geographically speaking, you can see how far your support goes. We will endeavour to keep you informed of the progress of these scholars throughout the year as part of our ongoing communication to you about the impact of your support. Finally, I just want to say that we're already planning for Giving Day 2022. And as we did this year, we would like to smash more records. We can only do that with the support of our alumni community. So I'll hope you enjoy us with our endeavour. Thank you all for this time to say this, and I'll pass over to Viola now, who will give you an update on the work of the Alumni Annual Council.
Thank you, Tom, and hello, everybody. I hope that you, I don't need an introduction yet. I will introduce myself. So my name is Viola Polakowska, and I head the Alumni Relations team at Oxford Saïd. It's me who sends you all the emails, and I hope you read them with pleasure. It's so wonderful to see so many alumni and students on the call today, and it was great to see various different geographical regions represented in the chat, so thank you for sharing that. I will just give you a very quick update on the work, fabulous work of our Alumni Advisory Council. They've been working tirelessly since last year, since they've been chosen to help the school and the alumni relations team with matters that are important to you. But I just wanted to say a big thank you to the AAC first for their help with the Giving Day, actually. And Tom mentioned a few very good numbers, but for the first time they've come together and created a match gift for the Giving Day, and which helped us achieve such fabulous results. So thank you so much to all the members for that. Over the past nearly a year, they've been working on 4 areas that are very important to you. And they are the lifelong learning and resources, the OBA network, careers, and fundraising. So the Alumni Advisory Council created 4 subcommittees, and each work on these areas together with myself, my team, and fellow alumni. So please, if you would like to give your feedback to them, please reach out to them, and the best way to do it is to email us on alumni@sbs.ox.ac.uk, and we will pass it on to them. Also, something really important to remember, early next year, we will be hosting our chapter elections. We would love to ensure we have fabulous representation of our alumni across the world, who will do wave the flag of SBS wherever they are. So now you will see in the chat a survey that we would really kindly ask you to complete for us, just to give us feedback on what kind of activities and engagement you would like to see in your region. I promised I will be fast, so that is from me for now, and I'll hand over to my colleague Pauline Brandt, who joined the school as media relations manager in June. And she will give you a very, very important update on how the school is acknowledging Black History Month this year, but also what kind of action we've been taking in equality, diversity, and inclusion. So over to you, Pauline.
Many thanks, Viola. And it's very good to be with you all today for the Alumni Town Hall. I want to talk briefly about Black History Month, which is celebrated throughout this month. And the theme this year is Proud to Be. Next slide, please. Well, I'm proud to be a daughter of the Windrush generation who arrived in the UK in the 50s and 60s. My parents came from the small Caribbean island of Dominica to South London. Quite a culture shock, but they kept their eyes on the prize and had great aspirations for us. There's me with my mom and all my siblings, putting an emphasis on education. Next slide, please. A potted history of Black History Month UK. It started in 1987 in the UK, and it took inspiration from Black History Month in the USA, which is celebrated each February. And that's, of course, linked to the civil rights movement with origins back to 1926. Well, at Oxford Saïd, in the experience that I've had these past few months, I can say that we're proud to be part of a community of people who celebrate and recognise the achievements and contributions of Black people in the UK and globally. On to the next slide. Now, of course, inequalities existed when my parents came here in the 50s. They had many doors shut in their faces. And last year, the spotlight was on structural racism. The death of George Floyd resonated globally, and the rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, I think, ignited a desire for education about Black history, heritage, and culture. We're in an institution of learning, and we need to keep that curiosity going to better ourselves. I think there's a willingness for change in institutions, but I think it needs to be willingness plus. We need strong leadership and we need action. On to the next slide, looking at some of that action. We've got EDI initiatives, as Johnathan was explaining to us, and he's highlighted the unique program. And as Nick in the audience has said, this is fantastic and it's on track, aiming for 25% by 2023 of the numbers of undergraduate students from underrepresented backgrounds. I've been personally involved in the Amos Bursary, which is spearheaded by Baroness Amos, the first Black Master at University College, Oxford. And what this does is mentor talented UK, African, Caribbean heritage students into top tier universities so that they can achieve their potential. Next slide. Now, action seems to be a bit slow, and this is the bugbear. I attended a roundtable yesterday by Hayes, the global recruitment business, and they created this equity, diversity, and inclusion report, and it's called All Talk and No Action. They surveyed this summer over 3,000 employers and employees from across the UK in a range of key demographics, industries, and sectors. On to the next slide, we can see what perceptions are from employers. The biggest challenge employers expect to see is overcoming resistance to change. 45% of them perceive that. Employee engagement, also a possible challenge. 41% perceive that. And action not being considered a business priority. Now, I find that very curious. That stands at 39%. On to the next slide to buck the trend. We have a brilliant Black Pioneers page, which was started last year at the school, and I've nominated Karen Blackett, OBE. She's the first UK country manager of WPP, and that's the world's largest communications network. On to the next slide, and we'll see what Karen says. She says diversity is not a problem that we have to fix, it's a solution. It makes business sense because it's about creativity. When you get lots of people from different backgrounds together, you get better solutions and ideas. And I think that your programs here at the school have proven that. Do check out the Black Pioneers page on the website. On to the next slide. And I just want to pick up some watchwords from the Black History Month official video, and do find it on YouTube. It's only about a minute, but the watchwords are dig deeper, look closer, and think bigger in your business spheres from all around the world. Thank you. Now I'm going to hand you over to Joy.
Thank you very, very much, Pauline. My name is Joy Bussell. I'm the Director of the Career Development Centre here at the Business School. And we're really delighted to be here taking part in this town hall today, because briefly I wanted to say a big thank you for the ways in which you as alumni have supported us within the career development team and the centre and our students. But also we wanted to use this as an opportunity to underline how we can support you as alumni too in terms of your own career development. So firstly, a huge thank you to everybody who has stepped in to support us throughout the pandemic. This was an opportunity when the hiring market was behaving very differently, and our alumni, you all really stepped up, and we are very grateful for that. And also more recently through our MBA launch, we hosted a number of sessions, and no fewer than 25 alumni took part in those sessions. And we just wanted to kind of explain why they have such value for us, and more importantly for our students. It allows them to see the diversity of your experience. It allows them to experience firsthand your career development trajectory and how they are not as linear as perhaps we might assume. It allows them to access very specific sector and organisation expertise, and it inspires them to think and to explore. In terms of our launch programme, we were delivering some very specific messages to our students. And some of that was around managing their own expectations of how they engage with the MBA, and also how they engage with the wider school, including careers. So I think one of the key messages that you as alumni enabled us to land is the importance of owning your own journey, that it's a lifelong career development journey, but also how to effectively reach out to alumni, and to do that in a way in which you can hear and see. I'm aware we're very short of time, so I just wanted to also introduce my colleague, Maria Dooley. We are a team of 20 in the Career Development Centre, and specifically Maria heads up our executive careers team. And the whole aim of that team is to support our executive MBA students, but also our alumni. So Maria, I'll hand over to you.
Thank you, Joy. Hello, everybody. Great to see so many people from all over the world today. If I can have the next slide, please. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind you that the careers team resource to help support postgraduate degree programme alumni in their career transitions. And each year we help many alumni from a range of different sectors and geographies around the world to prepare for their own individual career change. We help in different ways, depending on the individual's needs. This can include getting direction for a change, advice on preparing with job search strategy, or in optimizing applications and interview technique, which many people find difficult. Support includes one-to-one coaching with one of our experienced career coaches, as well as access to other resources, such as workshops, presentations, and our executive level jobs board. Access to this is via our careers portal, which may be new to many of you as it's only been available for the last couple of years, where you can set up an account if you don't have one, and this is called Oscar. You can email us, if not, at the Executive Careers team, and I'll provide the link for that in just a moment. So please reach out to us if you're not sure whether you're eligible for help or on the type of help you can get. And if you'd like to offer your help, as Joy just described, to help others in the community, either students or alumni, please contact us either directly at the careers team. We'd love to hear from you. Or you can email me, maria.dooley, and email address coming up, to let us know about your interests, and feel free to ask your questions in the chat. So I'm going to hand over now to Jonathan to take us through the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Joy. That was really great. And in the chat, you will see some links to those resources that were mentioned, and also a couple of you requested a link to the Hayes report on All Talk and No Action. We've posted that in the chat. Thanks also to those of you posting on the Q&A. Please carry on doing that. We should have some time at the end for Q&A, and we're answering a few as we go along to make up some time. Now, the final element of this town hall before we go to Q&A is something which is on all our minds, and that is around climate change and climate leadership. And a question that we're often posed is, what are business schools, in particular what are Oxford Saïd doing about this? Well, we want to answer that question with an exciting new initiative that is being launched in time for COP26 in Glasgow. And of course, an alumni town hall wouldn't be complete without a contribution from a familiar face. And we have that familiar face on video, and I'm going to ask Darius to fire that up now for us to describe the BSCL initiative.
Hi. Peter Tufano, back. You may have thought that I left, and in fact I have, at least left the job as dean. I'm still very much an Oxford professor, and it's in that capacity as an Oxford professor and former dean that I'm proud to announce to you today the creation of Business Schools for Climate Leadership. We've always talked about at the school of tackling world-scale problems. And certainly one of the biggest world-scale problems that needs to be addressed is the issue of climate change. The recent Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC report that came out a few weeks ago, laid out a fairly dire situation. Our greenhouse emissions have gone up. Our carbon budget is nearly exhausted. As a result, the extreme weather events that we've experienced this autumn and this summer, the extreme not only temperatures, but also both dry spells and wet spells in different parts of the world, sea level rise, all of that is just a manifestation of what the planet is saying to us, that enough is enough It can't take any more greenhouse gases. As a result, the race to mitigation under the UN and COP26 is critical, as well as the race to resilience and learning to adapt to the world that we live in. This calls upon governments and businesses, and yes, business schools to do their part. And doing our part, of course, at the school meant that we made sure that every student through GoTo over the last few years has been learning about the science of climate change, and whether that's in our work around energy or pandemic recovery or climate itself. But we have to do more than our individual work. We have to join forces with others, because this problem is way too big to be solved, even by a powerful institution like Oxford Saïd. So in February of 2020, I and some of my counterpart deans in Europe decided that we would collaborate around this issue of climate. And we would found what's now announced today as Business Schools for Climate Leadership. This group, as I said, consists of the 8 leading business schools of Europe, and we're putting our forces together. Well, what does that mean? It means in particular that in this first output of this group, that we have combined to produce a toolkit with 8 different parts about how businesses can think about climate change. There's a webinar series where we're going to share this information. There's a new website, bs4cl.org, where you can find out more, although it's a rudimentary website at this time. And we'll have some kind of presence at COP26, which is the major climate convening. But it has to go beyond COP26, which is in November. This is a commitment by our various schools to find ways to work together, whether they're on research or on teaching or on convenings, in order to help the next generation and this generation of leaders to deal with this climate crisis.
Thank you to Peter for that. There is a slide, I think, that we wanted to show, Darius, which is just the series of events which are being proposed over the next few weeks in the run-up to the COP26 conference, and you're all welcome to be involved in those events. And it's great to see Peter, having some time now, having stepped down as Dean, to pursue some of these initiatives, working with colleagues here in the school, and particularly Richard Barker, who's taking the lead on our sustainability initiatives. So we're at 10 to the hour, and we promised you time for questions. We've answered a few along the way, but there are still a few, I think, in the Q&A section. We might have answers to all of them, but what we will try and do is to answer them in writing after the event, either if we don't know the answer or we don't get around to them. And let me put one over to Sue, because I don't know the answer to this, and that's from James, who is asking about whether the focus of the business school will change at all with a new dean, particularly in respect of addressing global problems. Will it revert to typical business education?
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. And that also relates to another question that we had, which was, why has the process for selecting the dean taken so long? So let me deal with both of those. In terms of the dean search, you'll appreciate that it is a university process, and I serve, along with Professor Thomas Hellman, that many of you know, on the dean selection committee. And it's suffice to say that we did interviews at the end of April, and we asked 2 candidates to come to the school, and you can appreciate that travel restrictions, etc., made that challenging. Yeah. But 2 candidates did indeed come to the school, and we offered a job to one of them, but unfortunately, and this is now public knowledge, the person didn't accept, not because they were not excited by it, but because of a family issue, which is often the case in this. So it's fair to say that the panel will be reconvening, I think, the end of this month, and obviously that will be something that is a very big priority. So that's just a very honest update about where we are. In terms of the question from James, I think it was, Jonathan, absolutely the emphasis that Peter really put on fairness, responsible leadership, climate change, big scale problems, etc., is absolutely fed into that job description and discussions with any candidate. And I can promise you that, because it is indeed, I'm part of those conversations. So I hope that gives some reassurance, James. And I hope whoever asked the question about the dean search pre this this meeting, that's an update. So thank you much for asking those questions. Thank you.
And I think the university is taking this search very seriously. The committee Vice Chancellor, and she's personally involved in ensuring that.
Yeah, and Paul Polder's head of the board, absolutely.
Yeah. Question perhaps that can be answered by Viola or colleagues. How can alumni abroad purchase Oxford SBS apparel?
That is a very good question, Jonathan. I know there is some SBS apparel that can be purchased, and I don't know off the top of my head how to do it, but I promise I can look into it and then respond to it. Do we know who? It's an anonymous attendee. So if this person is still there, please email us at alumni@sbs.ac.uk and we will answer that question once I've found out, okay?
Okay. And Rashmi said, hi, Peter, good to hear you again. He was actually recorded, so he can't hear you, Rashmi, but we'll pass on your good wishes. And thank you, Kimberly, for your comment too. And we'll look forward to seeing you in Oxford as soon as we can. Question from an anonymous attendee. From the perspective of the SDGs, is there a plan to run a focused program on just human capital? And I don't know the answer to that, but I know someone who does. We'll ask Andrew White, who has particular interest in SDGs, to respond to that, I think, in writing after the event. There's a question also on accreditation. Are there any near-term plans for the business school to obtain AACSB accreditation? Nearly all of the top-ranked schools in the world hold AACSB. That's a good question. It's one that I'm actually responsible for, and was when Peter was here. There's much talk around triple accreditation, triple crown accreditation. At the moment, we are EQUIS accredited. We are in the process of getting AACSB accreditation. It's a lengthy process. We've been at it for 2 years, but we've had a very warmly welcomed initial staff evaluation report from the committee, and we'll be paid a visit by the AACSB panel next May to consider our application. So we may have some good news, we hope, by the middle of next year in relation to AACSB accreditation.
I don't think there are any more questions, Jonathan. Is that right?
Well, when can alumni visit the school again?
Oh yes, there we go.
Yeah, well, you're welcome now. Now it would be helpful if you could just let us know in advance, and in particular, what would be useful is if you could ensure that you bring your alumni card or alumni number with you when you come to reception, or even better, just notify them that you're going to drop in. Because although we have relaxed many of our COVID restrictions, we are still seeking to be as COVID secure as we can. For example, we're expecting face coverings, there's temperature checking in the lobby and so on. But we're much freer than we were a few months ago to welcome you back. So if you'd like to drop by, then please do let us know, and please do so. And as I said,
and please do let us know so we can catch up with you. So drop us an email in the alumni inbox, and if we are at the school, then we would love to see you again in person and catch up.
You'd have a couple of people submitted in advance of the webinar. How can we engage alumni who don't live in major urban areas? It's a good question. I think although our network is in 150 countries, not everyone is in a major city. But what we can say is that the OBA ambassador program is in place still. And so where our concentration of alumni is slightly lower than would justify a formal chapter, which is 50, we have ambassadors who help us to grow the network within the country concerned. There are also, outside major cities, we use WhatsApp groups and so on to keep in touch, and be part of the local business alumni community as well. So I think we'd be very open, I think, and Viola might want to comment on this, to ways in which we can ensure that we're reaching everyone across the whole country in major cities.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jonathan. That was spot on. And all I can add is that there have been so many downsides of the pandemic, but I think there is one benefit, which is us launching our online series called OBA Connect Online. And that has been fabulous. And so many alumni that we wouldn't have seen otherwise in person, they've come along and have interacted with us, with the school, with the faculty and the fellow alumni. So we will continue doing those. Slightly fewer than in the pandemic, since we are starting to do in-person events, but we will continue to do those. And like Jonathan mentioned, the WhatsApp groups, the LinkedIn group. We are introducing some sector focused groups as well, all of it online via different social channels. So please keep an eye on those. So we're trying to do hybrid, in person and also online, wherever you live.
Someone's asked if there is an OBA network in Cambridge, Viola. Not quite sure whether that's...
I'm sure there are lots of our alumni that I don't think we have an official one. We have a really big group in London, the London chapter. They are the ones who are probably active, and I'd imagine Cambridge is a nice train journey into London.
Yeah.
So
great suggestion from Burke on the chat. Yeah. As a company owner, we had an online cocktail party during lockdown. It worked wonderfully. Perhaps something for remote alumni. It's a great suggestion.
That sounds wonderful. I'll be up for that. That's great.
Mix your own martini, absolutely. Just looking through, great from Sunia. Great to hear about the developments. Missing beautiful Oxford. We miss you too, Sunia. Make sure you get across to see us soon as the travel conditions allow. But I think we're pretty well close to
nearly out of time. So yeah.
So perhaps I'll just pass back to Sue at this point.
Yeah, just huge thank you to colleagues for sharing what we've shared with you, and just a huge thank you to you for the trust that you have put in us over the years, and the contribution and the help that you are making going forward. We really, really appreciate it. And it's been tough the last 2 years. I know that for all, but thank you, just a huge thank you, and welcome anytime you want. And yeah, we're here. So thank you very much, and thank you, colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue, and I just wanted to thank yourself and Jonathan for your time today. We highly appreciate you giving us this hour and sharing with us and our alumni the fabulous news about the school, and obviously thanking our careers colleagues, Tom, Charles, and Pauline as well for your time today, and thank you to alumni who joined us today, and I've seen fabulous comments here in the chat that they found it useful. So please do look out for our feedback email, which will come very shortly into your inboxes. If you feel like there's something we could have done differently, or you would like to see again, then let us know. And I can't forget the alumni relations team. They've done a fabulous job to make this happen. As you can imagine, all these speakers, they had to be all nicely connected. So Charlotte Courtney, who is our events manager, has done a fabulous job, and obviously with support of Hannah Evans, who many of you already know, and Jill Britnell, and the rest of the team. So I think we can't forget about them. So I think we are past perfect 3 o'clock. Thank you so much. Okay. Stay safe and healthy, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.